December 17th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest, near Schoenberg, Belgium. The fog is so thick you can taste it, a freezing, grey soup that clings to the pine trees and muffles the roar of the Maybach engines. Generalleutnant Hasso von Manteuffel stands in the open turret of his command half-track, the wind biting at his exposed face. He lowers his binoculars, but there is nothing to see. The world ends 50 meters ahead, in a wall of white mist. Around him, the 5th Panzer Army is moving like a coiled snake, striking through the snow. This is Unternehmen Wacht im Rhein, Operation Watch on the Rhine, Hitler's last, desperate gamble to split the Allied armies and seize the port of Antwerp. But Manteuffel, a pragmatist and a veteran of the Eastern Front, knows the truth. They are not running on strategy anymore. They are running on fumes. Status of the lead column. He barks over the radio headset, pressing the headphones tight against his ears to drown out the screech of tank treads on ice. Advance is slowing, Herr General, the voice crackles back, distorted by static. Roads are blocked. American resistance at St. Vith is stubborn. Manteuffel slams his gloved fist against the steel rim of the vehicle. Stubborn. They don't have time for stubborn. Every hour wasted is an hour the Allied air superiority, currently grounded by the weather, moves closer to returning. And more importantly, every hour burns precious fuel. The German war machine, once the terror of Europe, is now a starving beast. The Tiger II tanks rumbling behind him are terrifying monsters of steel, but they are thirsty. The entire offensive relies on capturing American fuel dumps. They are fighting not just for territory, but for the gasoline required to keep fighting. Push forward, Manteuffel orders. Bypass the town if you must. We need their supply lines. Suddenly, the muffled thump-thump-thump of incoming mortar fire erupts ahead. The column halts. Through the mist, the orange flashes of an engagement light up the gloom. A reconnaissance unit has stumbled into an American convoy. Manteuffel signals his driver. Forward, I want to see. The command vehicle lurches ahead, passing shivering infantrymen huddled in thin coats. These are not the elite stormtroopers of 1940. Many are boys, barely 18, clutching Kar 98 rifles with frozen fingers. They look at the general with hollow eyes. They haven't eaten a hot meal in 3 days. Their horses, yes, much of their army is still horse-drawn and gnawing on bark. Up ahead, the firefight is brief but brutal. A handful of American GIs, caught off guard while transporting supplies, have been overwhelmed by the lead Panzer Grenadiers. The scene is a tableau of chaotic violence. A U.S. Willys Jeep sits in a ditch, steam rising from its shattered radiator. Beside it, a 6x6 transport truck has been run off the road, its cargo spilling into the snow. The German soldiers are already swarming the wreckage like locusts. They aren't looking for intelligence maps or encryption codes. They are tearing open crates looking for rations. Get back in line, an officer screams, waving his Luger. Secure the perimeter. Manteuffel climbs down from his half-track, his jackboots crunching in the blood-stained snow. He approaches the captured Jeep. It is a symbol of everything the Wehrmacht hates and envies, rugged, reliable, and seemingly mass-produced in infinite numbers. A young Oberleutnant salutes sharply, though his uniform is stained with grease. American reconnaissance unit, Herr General, we secured the vehicles intact. The truck is full of winter boots and ammunition. And fuel. Manteuffel asks, his voice low. Some jerry cans, not enough for the tanks, but enough for the staff cars. Manteuffel nods, walking around the Jeep. He inspects the interior. It is cluttered with the detritus of the American soldier, a half-empty pack of Lucky Strikes, a crumpled comic book, a map of the sector. It feels casual, unprofessional. It feels like the enemy isn't even taking this war seriously. He notices a canvas mailbag stuffed behind the driver's seat. It has been ripped open by a jagged piece of shrapnel or a bayonet. Packages are spilling out, Christmas parcels from home intended for the boys on the line. See if there is intelligence, Manteuffel grunts. Letters, unit designations, morale reports. The Oberleutnant reaches in and pulls out a large, heavy cardboard box wrapped in brown butcher paper. It isn't military issue. It's a care package. The string has been cut. Sir, the Oberleutnant says, lifting the lid. Manteuffel leans in. He expects to see socks, maybe a knitted scarf, perhaps tins of Spam. Instead, the smell hits him first. It is sweet, rich, and utterly alien to the freezing battlefield. It cuts through the stench of diesel and cordite. Inside the box, nestled in protective wax paper, is a chocolate cake. It isn't a dry, preserved ration cake. It is a fresh, homemade, dark chocolate cake with thick frosting. It looks like it belongs in a bakery window in Berlin before the war, not in a ditch in Belgium. Manteuffel stares at it. For a moment, the war stops. The Tiger tanks, the screaming artillery, the desperate mission. It all fades into the background of this absurd, dark circle of confectionery. Read the postmark, Manteuffel commands, his voice tight. The Oberleutnant turns the torn wrapper over. He squints in the dim light. Boston, Massachusetts, Herr General. Manteuffel looks at the date, stamped next to the city. He does the math in his head. The Atlantic Ocean. The rail lines to the coast. The convoy across the sea, dodging U-boats. The port in France. The Red Ball Express, truck convoy. The distribution center. The jeep. 4 days. Manteuffel whispers, mostly to himself. It took 4 days for this cake, to get from a kitchen in America to the front line in Europe. He looks at his own men. They are wearing boots stripped from dead Russians. They are eating soup made from melted snow and potatoes. They are scavenging gasoline from wrecked trucks just to move their tanks 1 more kilometer. And the Americans. The Americans have a logistical system so efficient, so overflowing with capacity, that they can ship a fresh cake across an ocean while it is still moist. The Oberleutnant looks at the general, waiting for an order. Shall I divide it among the men, sir? Manteuffel doesn't answer immediately. He is staring at the cake, and for the first time since the offensive began, he feels the cold grip of absolute certainty. He isn't looking at a dessert. He is looking at the industrial might of a superpower that hasn't even broken a sweat. Yes, Manteuffel says finally, his voice sounding very tired. Cut it, but leave a piece for me. December 17th, 1944. 2,000 hours. Mobile Command Post, 5th Panzer Army. Inside the cramped cabin of the command vehicle, the air is warm, smelling of stale tobacco and wet wool. A single kerosene lamp sways from the ceiling, casting long, dancing shadows against the steel walls. Manteuffel sits at a folding map table. The map is a masterpiece of tactical planning, red arrows sweeping toward the Meuse River, encircling the Americans at Bastogne. It is a plan that relies on speed, shock, and the assumption that the enemy is disoriented. But Manteuffel isn't looking at the map. He is looking at a slice of cake on a tin plate. He picks up a fork, a silver fork looted from a French shadow weeks ago, and takes a bite. The frosting sticks to the roof of his mouth. It is sweet, violently sweet. It tastes of sugar, butter, and real cocoa. It is fresh, Herr General, asks his chief of staff, Oberstleutnant Wagner, who is wolfing down his own portion, standing by the radio set. It is moist, Manteuffel replies quietly. It hasn't even begun to stale. He puts the fork down. The sweetness turns to ash in his throat. Wagner, Manteuffel says, gesturing with the fork. Do you understand what this represents? Wagner wipes chocolate from his lip. It represents that the Americans are soft, general. They need their treats while we fight on iron rations. No, Manteuffel snaps, his eyes flashing. You are thinking like a propagandist, not a soldier. Look at this. He stabs the cake. To get this here, to this specific ditch in the middle of a war zone, requires a chain of supply that is unbroken. It means they have ships to spare. It means they have trucks to spare. It means they have gasoline to spare just to drive mail to the front. He stands up, pacing the small space. We are siphoning fuel from one tank to start another. We are counting every shell. And the enemy is treating the Atlantic Ocean like a highway. If they can deliver a cake to a private soldier, they can deliver 1,000 tanks to a general. Outside, the wind howls, shaking the vehicle. The offensive is less than 24 hours old, and already the reports are coming in. Fierce resistance at Skyline Drive. Bridges blown by American engineers. The roads are clogging up. Manteuffel looks back at the map. The red arrows suddenly look very thin, very fragile. He realizes that Operation Watch on the Rhine was doomed before the first engine turned over. They are fighting a force that has mastered the one thing the Wehrmacht ignored: logistics. We will win the battle for the breakthrough, Manteuffel murmurs, but we will lose the war to the bakery. The radio crackles to life. Priority message from OKW. Field Marshal Martel demands a status update on the fuel seizure. Manteuffel stares at the half-eaten cake. He thinks of the American jeep driver who received this package, probably moments before the ambush. That driver is likely dead or captured. But there are 10 million more behind him, and they all have cake. Tell the field marshal, Manteuffel says, that we are advancing, but tell him the Americans are not running out of anything. December 23rd, 1944. The Ardennes sector. The miracle of the cake was the omen. The weather is the executioner. For 6 days, the Germans advanced under the cloak of heavy fog, shielded from the terrifying power of the Allied air forces. But on the morning of December 23rd, exactly as meteorologists predicted, the high-pressure system shifts. Manteuffel stands outside his vehicle, looking up. The grey soup that has protected them for a week dissolves. The sun breaks through, a brilliant, blinding winter sun against a crisp blue sky. It is the most beautiful weather imaginable, and to a German panzer commander, it is a death sentence. Aircraft, a sentry screams. They appear as black darts in the blue, then grow into swarms. P-47 Thunderbolts, P-38 Lightnings, RAF Typhoons. The sky hums with the vibration of thousands of engines. They descend like angry hornets on the exposed German columns that are now stalled, bumper to bumper, on the narrow mountain roads. The bombing begins. Manteuffel watches through his binoculars as a column of his supply trucks, the lifeline of his army, is turned into a ribbon of fire. He sees a fuel truck explode, sending a black mushroom cloud into the pristine air. The fuel, he whispers. There goes the fuel. The German offensive grinds to a halt not because they lacked courage, and not because they lacked tanks. They stop because their engines die. The great panzer divisions, the pride of the Reich, become stationary pillboxes made of steel, sitting uselessly in the snow. A few kilometers away, American C-47 transport planes are flying low over the besieged town of Bastogne. Parachutes bloom in the sky, red, yellow, and white. They are dropping supplies to the 101st Airborne. They are dropping ammunition, medical plasma, and yes, even rations. Manteuffel lowers his binoculars. He remembers the taste of the chocolate frosting. He remembers the date on the postmark. The general was right, a young adjutant says, standing beside him, shivering as the ground shakes from the bombing. They have too much. It is over, Manteuffel says, turning his back on the burning column. Order the units to disengage. We move back to the Rhine. Their unbeatable logistics. The story of the chocolate cake became a legend among the German high command. After the war, during interrogations, several Wehrmacht generals, including Manteuffel and Rundstedt, cited the overwhelming material superiority of the Allies as the decisive factor. They didn't fear their American soldiers' aim as much as they feared his supply chain. That single chocolate cake, baked in a Boston kitchen and eaten in a German command post, was a microcosm of the entire conflict. It demonstrated that while Germany was fighting a war of scarcity, rationing every bullet and potato, the United States was fighting a war of abundance. General Manteuffel survived the war to become a politician in the new West Germany. But he reportedly never forgot the taste of that cake. It was the taste of a realization that hit harder than any artillery shell. You cannot defeat an enemy who treats the impossible as a routine delivery.